overall conversation regarding generational differences, whether it was the grandmother and the granddaughter talking about opportunities, perceiving what stress is, considering what is and isn't a legitimate job, et cetera, and seeing the dichotomy between um, their way of thinking is one of the most relatable things, especially for immigrants of all walks of life. And it was really fantastic to see. Um, Cinematography wise, I really liked using the match cuts to kind of reflect on how food is the way that she used to connect with her grandmother, and how as their relationship began to develop and became, I feel like, arguably a little bit more toxic, how her relationship with food started to sour, and how each thing that she eats kind of reminds her of that in a very negative way, which again, the conversation with her brother in which she's saying, or when she found out from her mom that she was going to therapy and taking medicine for her anxiety. So I think that was also a very good conversation to be had, which is regarding minority groups and mental illness and whether or not it's being taken seriously. So I really, really loved that. Additionally, I really liked adding the language barrier between the grandmother and the granddaughter, because in a general sense, they already kind of didn't see eye to eye on things. For both grandchildren, it was never really the relationship that they wanted with their grandmother. And she also wasn't able to see that she wasn't being the grandmother that she wished to be. And also just kind of, the way that death is not a way to repair these relationships, and there's no way to really repair it once something so permanent happens, and kind of just going through grief and having to accept these things I think all of it was displayed very, very well. I really liked this film.
The element of family is really nice. Relationships and family relationships adds a nice touch to this piece. It really does show a distinction between the generations within this family. And they showcase that very specifically with the language barrier, which makes her feel sometimes unconnected to her family members, specifically her grandmother, and unconnected to her culture and what she represents. And I just thought it was a really great way of showing how someone would feel like that, but through the lens of this interfamily and interpersonal relationships within a family.
Right off the bat, immediately the audience recognizes a kind of complicated family dynamic. Uh, Ruth's mother is addressing her in Cantonese, and Ruth is responding in English. There seems to be a bit of tension, and we soon learn that Popo, her grandmother, has recently passed away, and Ruth did not return home to grieve the loss of her grandmother with her mom and brother. So there's a little bit of tension remaining. However, or as we continue through the story, Ruth, instead of being ruthless, we actually learn is ruthful. She is, if anything, maybe even burdened by the emotions and the empathy that she feels towards other people. She's extremely compassionate, and if anything, she feels a sense of guilt for not being present with her family and with Popo. Um, Food throughout the entire film is a very important expression or kind of agent of culture. It really is used as a symbol to connect the different generations and is a common ground between Popo and Ruth, who may have experienced the world differently. However, we're reminded everybody's experience is valid. Ruth and her Popo had a genuine connection, and her brother finally offers advice, which is to find your peace. And this eventually leads to the resolution of the story, which is to remember the good times with those that you loved and kind of not dwell on the negative. The writer of the script is very talented in multiple languages. Cinem- the cinematography was also wonderful. There were some really beautiful shots, the car reversing into a parking space and the window rolling up, that just had me excited. And then I thought that there was a really great production value, pretty high production value for a short film, lots of locations, a couple different actors, and everybody was wonderful.
Deals with themes of familial pressure and expectations, and also grief after death. The protagonist is revisiting her hometown and spending time with her mom and brother, but these interactions bring up a lot of memories with her recently deceased grandmother. As she mourns, she deals with grief over her decision to pursue a life of music in Nova Scotia, away from her family, and pursuing something that her family doesn't entirely agree with or think she can make money on, something that a lot of artists can relate to. The film was brilliantly done. I thought that it had excellent dialogue and really impressive performances. Basically, every actor in it did a really good job at creating a strong character. I also thought that the lighting was really well done. I think that it, in each scene, the lighting really contributed to the emotion of the scene. And overall, it was just a really captivating and beautiful story. And I think a lot of people can relate to it as they deal with these emotions. It's really like a worldwide experience, and the film captures that.
Really showed how people work through grief differently and how memories and things that influential people in your life say to you, how much of a lasting impact they really can have, and how much those people's opinions really do matter, especially when it's family, especially when it's, a parent or a grandparent and you're around them a lot. It's not somebody that you only see every once in a while. I think that those are the opinions that kind of carry more weight. And was just a really beautiful way of showing that as you grow and you become an adult and you are starting to kind of stand on your own, how you really kind of need to work through some of that stuff, especially if it's not always such a positive, good memory or outcome. And you need to do it just for you so you can, move on and be, a whole human and not be plagued by or haunted by, the memories or the comments. I thought this was a really beautiful way of showing it, especially with linking so much of it to food, which I think happens a lot as humans. We link memories to smells and to tastes, especially. And I think we all have those, moments where we smell a certain smell or we taste a certain food and it like takes us back to a very specific moment, especially from when we're younger a lot of the time. So I think that they used that, which happens a lot, really, really well.
We immediately get invested in Ruth. It was just very relatable and grounded. I think anybody, pursuing, especially creative pursuits, can relate. Really, really a lot of strong performances. Everyone, I guess, just felt really authentic and grounded. Just a really good, efficient film, a compelling story.